You are welcome to another segment of the series on Research Methodology Simplified series. My name is Professor Melody Ndidi Model from Michael Okpara University of Agriculture, Modike. Today, we are going to look at Lecture 9, titled Research Proposal Report. The focus of this Lecture 9 is on 1. Meaning of research proposal and the mandatory sessions. Let us find out what is the meaning of research proposal. Research proposal is what is very common among students who are writing their projects, writing their thesis, and writing their dissertations. Anytime you're starting to embark on an investigation on research, the first aspect of thing you do is to embark on research proposal. It is only when the research proposal is in order that you can further with your research. Therefore, there is need for us to understand adequately what is research proposal. Research proposal is a report of an intended research project. Communication must be futuristic. So what are we saying here? Whenever you are writing a research proposal, you must be conscious that the language you're going to use, you are proposing. The guy say it's a proposal. You are proposing what you intend to do in future. You have not started embarking on that. You are yet to convince people, look at what I want to do. Do I go ahead? Therefore, communication must be futuristic. A prerequisite for embarking on actual research projects or an actual research thesis or an actual dissertation. Proposal usually attract inputs from supervisor or supervisors, from supervisory committee and department to assist the students improve on the investigation. So what we mean here, that when you are writing a research proposal, you have been maybe a topic has been approved tentatively for you. You want to work on it to now present, look at what I want to do with this title, tentatively approved for me. Look at what I intend to do. So the supervisor must be involved in approving all you are doing at this proposal. The supervisory committee, which is more than your supervisor, which can involve more a department or a committee, they look at and see what you are proposed to do. And when you present to them and they say it's okay, that's the only time when you can proceed. For quality assurance purposes, we have two types of proposals. The one you have to submit to the department and submission to donor or funding agency. Yes, when we talk about research proposal, some are the one that's pure academics, one you do in institution, like an academics in universities and tertiary institutions. You do like one I've mentioned already, when you're writing a research project as an undergraduate student, or as a master's writing a thesis, or as a PhD writing a dissertation. Others could be, you are trying to attract funds for you to carry out the research from donor funding agency also. So this proposal, if you are sending it to the donors, there's a little things that you're going to add that will be different from what you are doing when you are just writing it under university or academic environment. It could be research proposal or feasibility study report. There is no specific or particular format or steps to adhere to or follow in writing research proposal. I said there is no. Then when I said there is none, but we have a standard, a basic, a fundamental. But I said there is a meeting point, a basic requirement, common in use by scholars and researchers. So in as much as some people, why we say there's no particular format, what may come first in this people's understanding may come second. That's why we say there's no. But there are basic, there are meeting points. There are specific main section headings that exist. So there are subheadings that every person expects to see in your research proposal. We want to see preliminary section and we want to see the mandatory chapters. In proposal, the preliminary pages are just very few. Could be your cover page that is not even numbered, but it should have a title page. Then you look at the mandatory chapters. Let us look at the mandatory chapters. The mandatory chapters of a research proposal report are: number one is introduction, number two is review of literature. Some people will say review of related literature. I appreciate when it is review of a related literature, because some people can just go and start reviewing literature, even things outside their work. That's why people have to be called to order to limit it to what is relevant to your work. Number 3 mandatory chapter is research methodology. Some call it research methodology, some call it research methodology, simply methodology. Some call it research method, whichever, they are saying the same thing. And if your research proposal is moving to a donor agent or funding agency, you have to include detailed budget and work plans. But if it's just pure academic in tertiary institutions or university, this may not be necessary. We don't include this. Then your next chapter or next mandatory chapter should be the references. References is inevitable. It's very important. You cannot do with references and following where it should be done. Then the last expected in this proposal is the appendices, or what they call annexure. Yes, because when you are writing a proposal, maybe there are things you saw somewhere that could help you. Maybe you're studying about schools. You want to get the list of schools in the area of your study. You want to tell us the population and how they are distributed. This thing can come as what? Appendices. Then on the main mandatory sections or chapters, as we said before, we said that number 1 is introduction, and this is called chapter 1. The study introduction covers these main section headings. What are we trying to say? In this chapter 1, titled Introduction, it has its own subheadings. There are 7 mandatory subheadings, which we call in educational research main section headings. They are background to the study, statement of the problem, purpose of the study, research questions, hypotheses, significance of the study, scope of the study. In this scope of the study, some people may call it the delimitation or delineation, boundary. But the most standard word to be used or statement to use is scope of the study. The chapter 2 of the proposal should cover or title review of literature, which I have said some people prefer to call it review of related literature, but all of them are literature. So some prefer to just say review of literature because I believe that you should know what you are to review upon. But for those who do not know what to review upon or how to narrow it, we need to use the word related to checkmate them so they know how to content themselves to what is related to the objectives. In review of the literature, what are the things we expect to say there? The number 1 is for you to see the preamble, where you have to introduce what you want to do in that chapter. You have to tell us what you want to do, that this chapter will cover this and this and that. That is the preamble. Then the subheadings you are going to present this or discuss this are: number 1, under conceptual framework; number 2, theoretical framework; number 3, empirical studies. And that is not the list. You have to give us the summary of the literature reviewed. Then chapter 3 of the proposal, which I said some call it research methodology, some call it simply methodology, some call it research method. Whichever your university or institution adopts, you have to adhere to that. You have to also give the preamble, as I've also illustrated in chapter 2. You have to tell us that this chapter discusses or covers these and these methods that are going to be applied or to be adopted and carry out all these studies. And these methods they are going to apply are presented under these headings. These headings are area of the study, design of the study, population of the study, sample and sampling techniques. Some people always omit this S. It's not good that you omit this S because most often in sampling and sampling techniques, you rarely will use one technique to go about it. Instrument for data collation, validation of the instrument, reliability of the instrument, method of data collation, method of data analysis. Then, like I said, if you are dealing with the donor agencies, you have to include what? Detailed budget. For feasibility study reports, research grant seeking proposals, research proposal naturally does not exceed chapters 1 to 3 with necessary appendices. References is also a mandatory chapter. In this chapter, you have to make sure that all cited are referenced. And in referencing, every institution has their pattern they adhere. Generally, people in social sciences, in education, adhere to what we call APA style, which is the American Psychological Association style of referencing. So your university will tell you whether to adopt that comprehensively or get other ones and add. So make sure you listen and adhere to whatever your own school insisted. But outside your school, you adopt APS style. The last to be discussed under research proposal is the appendices or annexure. Yes, like I said before, there are some attachments, some of things that you needed to buttress what you have said, what you are going to work, or what you have presented in chapter 1 to 3. So for us to see and get convinced that yes, like if you have validated your instrument, you have to convince people that are going to assess it, that are going to look at the proposal, that you have gone for validation of your instrument. If you have done reliability tests, you also have to show that you did that. So these are going to be attached, and when they're attached, they serve as appendices. Evidence of reliability tests, population and sampling or sample distribution, sampling techniques, details of analysis where necessary. These are the things that could come and be attached as appendices. With this, we come to the end of today's lecture. In our next lecture, we're going to look at research reporting.